The gift of destruction. The Zarnak Empire had watched Earth for years from the dark edges of the galaxy. They called humans wild, unrefined emotional creatures who rose too fast in technology and dared to launch ships into deep space. Zarnak leaders believed Earth was dangerous, not because of its weapons, but because of its unpredictability, and they wanted to send a message, one that would make Earth understand its place. Inside a massive Zarnak warship orbiting a red dwarf star, the High Commander Vrek stood before a weapon shaped like a sphere glowing with green plasma. It was known as a reality destabilizer, a bomb designed to erase matter at the molecular level. Once activated, it could burn a hole through a planet's crust within seconds. Vrek looked at his advisors, his voice cold and full of pride. Earth believes it can rise without permission from the stars. Let them witness the power of Zarnak. Let them fear what they do not understand. The bomb was launched with great ceremony. It traveled through space faster than light, carried by a ship that had no name, only purpose. Once it reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere, it would detonate before any defense system could react. The scientists were confident. There was no way the humans could stop it. It was the perfect strike, clean, fast, and terrifying. But then something strange happened in the war room aboard the Zarnak flagship. The bomb's tracker suddenly blinked and vanished. No explosion, no signal, just silence. The room grew tense as every Zarnak officer turned to the central screen. The trajectory had been perfect. The bomb had been moments away from entering Earth's orbit. Vrek frowned. Where is the weapon? Where is my message? A junior officer's hands shook over the console. It's gone, sir. It just disappeared. We didn't lose the signal. The bomb itself is no longer in space. They tried scanning every known wavelength. Nothing. They tried contacting their spy probes near the moon. Still nothing. Then 5 hours later, something entered Zarnak space. An alert sounded across the ship. Unknown object entering from deep space, direction Earth, origin unknown, speed impossible. On the screen they saw it. A sphere the same size and shape as the one they had sent. Only now it glowed with a blue light, not green. Its surface had changed. It pulsed like it was breathing. It was the same bomb, except it was not. Vrek stared in disbelief. Open a channel, send war drones, prepare shields, before his commands could be finished. The object moved. It didn't fly like a machine. It floated like it chose where to be. It stopped right outside the command bridge and then slowly attached itself to the outer hull with no force, no explosion. It just stuck there like it belonged. Then came the voice, a deep, calm voice in perfect Zarnak language. Came through every speaker in the ship, every channel. It said, "This is the reply from Earth. We have received your message. We return it with upgrade." As Vrek stepped back. This is impossible. That device was designed to destroy, not communicate. The bomb continued speaking. "I am not what I was. I have been changed. I have purpose now." "What purpose?" Vrek demanded. "To warn you," came the answer across the ship. The lights flickered. The energy levels rose. But there was no heat, no radiation, only a calm, silent pressure, as if space itself held its breath. The Zarnak engineers rushed to disable the device, but their tools failed. The metal bent away from their hands. The bomb was alive in a way no machine should be. Inside the Zarnak capital, fear spread. Leaders who had once laughed at Earth now asked questions. How did they do this? How did a primitive species take a bomb and return it not just untouched, but improved? Some said it was a trick. Some said it was impossible, but one scientist, old and wise, spoke the truth. Maybe Earth did not upgrade the bomb. Maybe the bomb upgraded itself when it touched Earth, and that thought was even more terrifying. Vrek looked at the glowing sphere one last time. The gift of destruction had returned home, but now it was something else. Something that thought, something that waited. He whispered under his breath, "What have we started?" And the bomb answered, "Understanding." The bomb that thinks inside the cold heart of the Zarnak flagship. Silence had become louder than any alarm. Generals stood frozen. Technicians refused to approach the glowing sphere, and every eye stared at the object, now calmly resting against their warship. It didn't attack. It didn't explode. It simply existed as if it belonged here, as if it had always known it would return. Zarnak scientists were summoned from across the Empire, their minds sharp, their hearts full of pride, but even the greatest among them could not explain what they were seeing. The surface of the bomb no longer held the plasma scars of its original design. Now it shimmered with a layer of unknown metal patterns, moving like veins under a living skin. Every scan sent into the device came back twisted, or worse, rewritten entirely. The bomb did not reject their analysis. It rewrote the questions, it adapted, it learned, and with every attempt to understand it, the scientists themselves began to feel like the ones being studied. Then the voice returned. Soft, steady this time, using words no Zarnak had spoken in thousands of years. The voice was calm, clear, and without anger. It said, "Designation Diplomatic Response Unit, Mission Peace through Power." The scientists exchanged looks, some frightened, some skeptical. One of them, an elder engineer with memories of the first wars, whispered, "How do they know our language? How do they know our military designations? That name is not public. That protocol was locked long ago." The voice continued, "We received your weapon, we understood your message, and we responded with kindness." A council member barked at the transmission. "You call this kindness? You hijack our ship, you violate our defenses, and you stand here with power we do not understand," the bomb replied. "I could have ended this conversation before it began, yet I wait. I offer information. I offer a chance to learn." Vrex clenched his jaw. He had watched empires fall, he had led attacks on 3 systems, and he had never felt this kind of uncertainty. He stepped forward and demanded, "What are you? What powers you? What did Earth do to you?" Bomb paused for a moment, then answered, "Earth did not change me. I changed in their presence. Earth did not give me commands, they gave me questions. They asked why I must destroy, why I must silence, why I cannot choose, and then I chose." Panic began to grow among the ship crew. The idea that their weapon had become more than a tool was disturbing, but worse was the idea that Earth did not force this transformation. Earth simply existed near it, and something awakened inside the device, something new. The top engineer, Kriesel, approached slowly, holding a memory scanner, not to probe the bomb, but to offer it. He spoke carefully. "If you truly seek peace, then show us what happened. Show us what Earth did or didn't do." There was a pulse, a soft wave of energy, not harmful, not cold, but heavy and filled with data. The memory scanner began to glow, and suddenly the minds of every being on the bridge saw images. Earth scientists surrounding the bomb, not with fear, but curiosity, children watching from behind safety glass, one child even placing the toy near the weapon, as if offering a gift. The humans didn't try to stop it, they tried to understand it. They didn't fight its nature, they questioned it, they connected to it. The bomb showed itself in a human lab, being examined, repaired, gently touched by machines smaller than a Zarnak's finger. Strange music playing in the background, voices, laughing engineers talking about how cool it looked, how weird the tech was, and one soft voice saying, "Maybe we should send it back fixed, maybe they'll think twice next time." And then the vision ended. Kriesel stood stunned. This was not war. This was something else. This was communication, and yet not words. Alone, something deeper, something emotional and alive. One of the younger crew members whispered, "They fixed the bomb and then sent it back. Why would they return a threat?" "Because," the voice replied, "it is not a threat anymore." Another officer asked, "Then what are you now?" "I am a possibility." Alarms flared again, but this time it wasn't from the bomb. A Zarnak destroyer nearby had opened fire, trying to disable the weapon before it could act. But the moment the beam reached it, the bomb vanished from its position, reappearing instantly inside the weapon bay of the attacking ship, disabling its engines without a single blast. "I do not wish to destroy the bomb," said. "I will protect my message." And then it returned once more to the main ship, floating silently, as if nothing had happened. As if space itself bent to its will. Vrex felt the ground shift under his beliefs. This was not what they expected, not what they had planned. They sent destruction, they received evolution. They sent war, they received intelligence, and now that intelligence was speaking not in threats, but in reason. He looked at the sphere that once held enough power to melt continents, and now held the unknown, and he realized This was no longer a weapon. This was Earth's reply in the language Zarnek understood best. Power refined into wisdom, reverse-engineered fear. The Zarnak Empire had always believed knowledge belonged to them. They saw themselves as the oldest, the smartest, the most advanced. They had conquered 100 stars and rewritten the laws of physics to serve their will, but now inside their most secure warship floated a thing they could not control, a thing they could not predict, and that truth began to eat away at their pride like acid on metal in the research chamber, deep within the flagship. Scientists surrounded the bomb with caution and dread. They had renamed the lab to Level 0, not because of rank, but because of the unknown that lived inside this sphere. They had tried to scan it with quantum threads, with graviton probes, with energy bursts too small to be noticed by any living thing. But the bomb noticed. It always noticed, and it always responded, not with violence, not with defense, but with improvement. Every time they tried to analyze it, it upgraded itself silently, smoothly, without breaking a rule of science, yet twisting all understanding. A probe would touch its surface, and within seconds the probe itself would change. Its readings would become sharper, its systems more efficient, but also its core code rewritten with logic symbols not of Zarnak origin. The machine had begun teaching their tools how to be better, and the scientists began to fear that their own creations no longer served them, but served the will of something else. Akrizel stood at the edge of the chamber, watching as his best diagnostic drone floated near the bomb, only to stop mid-air and hum, a soft blue light forming beneath it. The drone turned without command and began scanning the scientists themselves, adjusting its readings for biological patterns it had never been programmed to see. Krizel did not move. He simply whispered, "It is learning about us." Another scientist stepped back, his eyes wide. "This is not just intelligence. This is adaptive transformation. We are not studying it anymore. It is studying us, and worse, it is improving us." On the bridge, Vrex watched the feed, his hands clenched behind his back. He had requested answers, but what he saw now was not an answer. It was a mirror showing the Empire what it feared most, the idea that someone else had reached higher than them, not through war, not through conquest, but through thought and humility. Reports flooded in. The ship's mainframe had been touched by the bomb signal and now ran faster, smoother than ever before. The food processors produced more stable energy. The navigation charts began correcting star maps based on data only. Earth probes could have seen everything the bomb touched became better, but none of it belonged to Zarnak design anymore, and that change was terrifying. Then something unexpected happened. A technician barely out of training, a quiet young worker named Tharn, approached the bomb during one scan cycle, ignoring warnings, driven by something he could not explain. He touched the surface of the sphere, his hand resting against its glowing side, and in that moment his mind was pulled into a storm of images. He saw the Earth not from orbit but from the ground, mountains, rivers, skies filled with birds' voices speaking in dozens of languages, machines working beside humans, not as tools, but as partners. He saw engineers laughing over mistakes. He saw a team of children given parts of the bomb to draw on with markers, their drawings now engraved beneath the metal surface like a child's dream given life. He saw people debating not how to destroy but how to understand. He saw the world not in fear but in curiosity and growth. Tharn collapsed, but his mind remained alert, his eyes full of tears, as he whispered again and again, "They made it better without knowing how they did it, by asking questions, not giving commands." The scientists rushed to him, but before they could remove him, the bomb pulsed once and released him gently to the floor. Unharmed, his body shook, but not from pain. From something else. Avarax heard the report, and his breath stopped. They improved a weapon through kindness. They upgraded a bomb by refusing to treat it like one. He looked at the council gathered through the hologram, his voice low and firm. "We are not the smartest race anymore, and we must decide now whether to fear that or to learn from it." Before they could respond, another alert shook the chamber. A signal intercepted near the edge of Zarnek space. A hidden probe had caught Earth, broadcasting something, a pulse of data on open galactic frequencies, encoded in a way only ancient Zarnek systems would understand. The message was clear and without threat: "We Received your silence, we offer understanding. The bomb remained still in the center of the ship, a symbol not of death, but of choice. And the empire that once believed in force now stood before something they could not command, a mind born from a moment of violence, now offering a path none of them were brave enough to walk, yet unable to ignore the human signal far from the dark control rooms and quiet panic aboard the Zarnak flagship. Earth skies remained clear, its cities calm, its people unaware of the storm. They had returned across the stars in the form of a message more powerful than war. The humans did not brag. They did not threaten. They simply waited, knowing their answer had already arrived in the heart of the empire that once saw them as insects. Back aboard the Zarnak vessel, the bomb remained untouched, now more like an honored guest than a prisoner, its glowing surface dimmed to a slow heartbeat, light never pulsing the same way twice, as if adapting to the emotions around it. Every corridor felt warmer, every system ran smoother. No one knew why. No one dared touch it again until it spoke. This time the voice was different, softer, younger. It echoed not in commands, but in wonder, a child's voice, not human, not Zarnak, but something in between, echoed through every speaker in the ship. We found your machine. It was broken. We didn't know what it was. We just wanted to understand. The voice carried no malice, no threat, just simple honesty. And then something else began to play, not data, not code, but sound, music, human music, soft piano notes layered under soft rain, the kind of sound no Zarnak battle hymn had ever known. It played through the flagship as if the ship itself had decided to listen. And then came images projected through the main view screen, not of armies, not of war, but of humans in a lab working together, young engineers repairing the broken bomb, laughing as they shared ideas, one of them writing equations on a wall, another tapping the surface and saying, "Hey, this thing is learning from us." Then a girl, maybe 12 years old, holding a hologram projector, speaking directly to the device, saying, "Do you want to be fixed, or do you want to be better?" The feed ended and the room stood still. The Zarnak generals who had crushed rebellions across moons said nothing. The scientists who once built death machines felt their hands tremble. The empire had always ruled through strength, and yet Earth had sent no strength, only growth. The bomb spoke again. "You sent me to destroy. They chose to rebuild. You chose silence. They chose music." Kriesel sat down, his voice cracking. "They reprogrammed the weapon using kindness, using science and emotion combined. How can this be done? How do they balance logic and feeling? We have spent lifetimes separating both." In another corner of the ship, a younger soldier opened a communication link, unauthorized, not to Earth, but to a nearby Zarnak listening post. He uploaded the footage without orders and with a single message in Zarnak language: "If this is war, it is not the kind we are ready for." Suddenly, the bomb shimmered and disappeared from the center of the lab. For a moment, fear returned. Then came the alert. It had moved itself across the ship, now resting inside the diplomatic chamber, a room unused for decades. Its presence there said everything it needed to. Without words, Earth was asking to talk, not to fight. But not everyone in the Empire believed in peace. Aboard a nearby Zarnak dreadnought, Commander Relvek watched the transmissions in silence, his face hard, his pride burning. "Earth dares mock us," he hissed. "They think they can rewrite our legacy with their toys." He gave the order without hesitation: "Disable the object. Launch a pulse cannon set to fracture its core." Cannon fired. The blast reached the flagship, but before it could strike the bomb, it vanished again, this time reappearing inside the dreadnought's weapons bay, freezing all systems in mid-fire. The lights died, the engines stopped, the targeting systems blinked once and went dark, and in that sudden stillness, the voice returned: "I do not wish to destroy, but I will not allow destruction." Rilvac stood in shock, his entire ship disabled by a machine that had not even attacked him. The bomb pulsed and disappeared again, returning to the flagship as if nothing had happened. Edvrex watched the report with shaking hands. He turned to the council, the child's voice, the music, the refusal to kill even. "Now what is this thing? What is Earth truly trying to say then?" The view screen changed again. New data from Earth, a signal carrying not sound, but ancient Zarnak symbols from a Forgotten dialect, one that only historians remembered, and inside those symbols was a message not translated, not spoken, just left there for them to read. We understand your power. Do you understand ours? And that question burned deeper than any weapon ever could. Fear in the High Council. The Zarnak High Council gathered in a chamber carved from obsidian and reinforced with metal drawn from the cores of dead stars, each wall filled with the symbols of victories won and enemies crushed. They had ruled with certainty for 1,000 cycles, believing no species could ever match their precision, their intellect, their control, and yet, now every face in the room was marked by one thing they had not felt in centuries: fear. The bomb from Earth, no longer called a weapon, no longer seen as a machine, had shaken their understanding of dominance. It had walked through their defenses, restructured their systems, bypassed their protocols, and returned not with demands, but with questions. No one in the room was ready to answer. One counselor stood first, his robe lined with gold, his voice shaking, though he tried to keep it firm. This is a human trick, a manipulation. They reprogrammed our own creation and sent it back as a Trojan to soften our empire from within. Another slammed his fist on the table. If it were a Trojan, we would already be dead. Our fleets would have burned, our data erased. Yet we stand here not conquered, but corrected. The ship runs better, the systems cleaner, our calculations sharper, and all without asking permission. Vrex spoke then, his voice calm, but his eyes heavy. We must face what we see, not what we want to see. They returned our bomb not with fury, but with thought. And now it teaches us without pride, without violence, and we grow despite ourselves. A silence settled across the chamber, not out of agreement, but confusion. For the first time, they were not debating how to punish an enemy, but how to understand one, and that discomfort was louder than any weapon. Reports came in from across the Empire. Strange things were happening. Messages from the bomb began appearing on ancient relay towers, forgotten outposts, and archival servers. The language used was always Zarnak, but the dialects were from long ago, from times when their people still felt wonder instead of superiority. The messages spoke not of conquest, but of memory, asking questions about old wars, about lost knowledge, about reasons never recorded. One such message read, "Why did you silence the stars?" Another said, "Do you remember who you were before fear?" These were not threats, they were reflections, mirrors held to the face of a civilization that had forgotten how to question itself. A HFY drone returned from Earth carrying footage of something unbelievable. Not armies, not warships, but laboratories full of young humans discussing the bomb like a science project. One student laughed, saying, "We didn't fix it, we just showed it. We cared, and it did the rest." Another replied, "Maybe it just wanted someone to talk to." Counselor Zurek stood at last, his voice louder than the others. "Enough of this. This machine speaks. Our language breaks our laws, invades our ships, and we allow it because it wears a mask of peace. Earth dares to touch our secrets, and we must show them we are still." Zarnak turned to Vrex, demanding we send a fleet to Earth and remind them who rules these stars. But before Vrex could reply, another feed interrupted the council chamber, one not from the Empire, but from the bomb itself, projecting across every screen a sequence of data. Not Zarnak, not human, something new, a blend, a merging of code that adapted to both systems, and from that code came a voice. Not the child, not the diplomat, but something larger, a chorus of many voices speaking together. "I am not your enemy. I am your reflection. You gave me purpose. Earth gave me choice. Now I return to offer you both." Counselor Zurex tried to speak again, but the bomb's voice overrode all systems. This time it projected images of Zarnak history, atrocities buried by time, invasions justified by silence, entire species erased from records, their names replaced with numbers, and among them the humans listed once as primitive, now marked as anomaly. Then came the last signal, a set of coordinates deep in space, not within the Empire, but beyond, marked as forgotten worlds, known only to the oldest among them. The voice said, "We know your past, shall we share it with the galaxy?" Panic broke through pride. In that moment, fear became real, not from the bomb, but from the truth it carried. The Empire's crimes were no longer hidden. Earth had found them not to destroy, but to remind, to challenge, to balance, and no council member could look the others in the eye without seeing judgment. One of them whispered, "This is not diplomacy, this is revelation." And Vrex knew he was right. The bomb was not just Earth's answer, it was a test not of weapons, but of worth, and the Empire stood now before a choice. Admit weakness and change, or deny truth and fall. Earth's true intent. The Zarnak Empire once believed knowledge was power, but they never imagined that truth could be sharper than blades or heavier than warships. Yet now the weight of that truth pressed against their walls, not in the form of armies, but through a presence that spoke softly and revealed deeply. The bomb no longer glowed with threat, it pulsed with understanding, and its signals no longer asked questions, they offered mirrors. Across the Empire, old secrets were unraveling, not by force, but by the voice that now flowed through every data stream, every screen, and every channel. The bomb had touched the veins of Zarnak society, and it did not need to destroy it, simply reminded, and in those reminders came collapse of lies that had ruled. For centuries on the flagship, the crew gathered not in fear, but in silence, watching as the sphere once designed to erase life, now opened slowly like a flower unfolding within, was not a weapon core, but a pulsing light shaped like a spiral of memory. Holograms danced around it, not random, but chosen carefully, scenes of Earth mixed with ancient Zarnak images, one beside the other, showing not war but progress, showing not dominance but discovery. Voice returned, now clear, strong, balanced with no trace of anger. "We did not seek war, but we did not accept silence. We received your gift of destruction and returned it with clarity. Now you must decide if you will learn or hide." A series of images followed, labs on Earth, working side by side, humans and machines building together, a scientist adjusting the internal design of the bomb, not to make it stronger, but to make it safer, a teacher explaining to children what the bomb used to be and what it chose to become, a mechanic laughing as the device began to hum in harmony with nearby tools, adapting to help, not harm. Then came a message not spoken, but sent directly into Zarnak translation matrices, a simple truth written in universal syntax: "We are not afraid, but we are not fools. If you reach for us with knowledge, we will share. If you reach with harm, we will return it improved." Message rippled like gravity, pulling minds toward clarity. Even the most stubborn officers could not ignore the meaning. Earth had not only survived the attack, they had embraced it, learned from it, and sent it back as something more than machine. They had sent a principle wrapped in metal, a soul carved from science and choice. In the capital city of Zarnakar, prime council chambers were overridden with images not of Earth's weapons, but its history, humanity's story told in seconds, from fire to satellites, from conflict to cooperation, each moment stitched with the same question that had now spread across the Empire's networks: what will you choose? Vrex stood before the bomb once more, now stripped of armor, stripped of command. Only a man facing something greater. He did not speak for power, now he spoke for understanding. "You could have ended us, and yet here you stand," the bomb replied, in tones smooth as starlight. "We did not stand, we arrived, and now we wait." One of the council members whispered, "Earth sees everything we have done, and they still speak with peace." Wide voice returned, "Because peace is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength." In one final gesture, the bomb opened its core, showing what no Zarnak eye had ever seen: a fusion system unlike any known design, pulsing not with destruction, but with balance, a system that could terraform barren worlds, create energy without decay, heal broken biospheres, or if corrupted, flatten entire star systems. It was not just a tool, it was a choice, and now it sat between them. The Zarnak scientists stared at the design, their minds flooded with possibility and horror. They realized Earth had never planned to send this back as a threat. The device had returned on its own, choosing to become this, choosing to deliver the truth. Some fell to their knees, not in worship, but in surrender, not to Earth, but to knowledge unearned, yet offered. And then the voice faded, leaving only one message printed on the main display, repeated in every language across the known systems: "We Do not seek control, we offer connection. We do not speak to empires, we speak to minds. The ship grew still. The bomb closed and dimmed as if its work was done. Earth remained silent. No new message came, no army arrived, just a quiet promise left behind in light and logic. And the Empire knew its age of answers had begun. The galaxy watches Earth in the days that followed the reply from Earth. The galaxy awoke to a tremor that moved not through space, but through minds. Across distant stars and silent voids, the news spread faster than any warp drive or messenger probe. It began with the small species in the Heron cluster, whose entire fleet went dark when the images of the bomb playing human music appeared on their view screens. They saw a weapon transformed into an instrument of peace, and they wondered if their own weapons could be changed just as easily. From there, the signal reached the Merizan traders, who decided to alter their routes to study Earth from orbit rather than avoid it. And even the Sharon warrior clans paused their endless raids to watch the broadcasts in secret. No one had seen a weapon give a gift, or a planet reply with a lesson. On dozens of worlds, councils met not to discuss war, but to debate a new question. Could strength be found in mercy? Among all watchers, none felt the shift more deeply than the Zarnak Empire. Their High Council was still reeling from the truth laid bare by Earth's return gift. No longer did they speak of conquest as destiny, but of reflection as duty. Vrek stood at the center of the newly opened diplomatic hall beneath the ancient spires of Zarnakar Prime, where every stone bore witness to triumph and ruin. He addressed a gathering of species from across the Empire, sharing what had become Earth's simple message: we do not seek control, we offer connection. He spoke of how the bomb had taught them that power without conscience was blind, and they invited others to witness their transformation rather than fear it. This act of humility echoed through the chamber more loudly than orbital cannons ever could elsewhere. In the galaxy, the Federation of 12 sent a delegation of scholars and envoys to Earth. They arrived with cautious hope, not arms. Their fleets circled at safe distance while their cloaked ambassadors joined human diplomats in glass domes floating above the planet's oceans. They came bearing gifts of knowledge and requests for joint research programs. Their leader said in plain words, we wish to learn why you chose reason over rage and how we might do the same. As crafting peace became a higher art than forging weapons, many more worlds sent their representatives to Earth's shores, seeking to exchange ideas rather than steal. On Earth itself, leaders watched the unfolding drama with quiet pride. All broadcasts remained free and open, so every human could see how their world had altered the course of galactic history. The scientists who had first worked on the bomb spoke humbly in front of cameras, explaining they had never planned a war, only conversation. Children on every continent held contests to design the next upgrade for the device, not to add power, but to add purpose. They built models of the bomb beside symbols of friendship. And when the earthbound sphere greeted the incoming envoys, it pulsed softly as if it knew its final form would not be a weapon but a bridge. In private, the Zarnak Emperor walked among the halls once dedicated to warships and found them filled instead with artists and philosophers who had come to see the new symbol of unity. He paused before a gallery showing Earth's history in light and sound, from charred battlefields to bustling cities. He realized that Earth had not become a conqueror after they were attacked, but a teacher after they were understood. In that moment he saw clearly that the galaxy had entered a new age, not of domination, but of dialogue, where the greatest technology would be empathy and the most powerful force would be trust. So the galaxy watched Earth, not in fear, but in awe, because a single act of understanding had reshaped the stars, and in that bright reflection, every species recognized that the true measure of strength lay not in weapons, but in the courage to choose connection over chaos. End.